Adams Archive.
Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to the Adams Archive. My name is Austin Adams, and thank you so much for listening today. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the recent Epstein file releases, the emails, the controversies, all of it. We're also going to be jumping into some of the discussions and updates around Candace Owens' turning point. There has been some explosive realizations over the last, I'd say 24, even 72 hours regarding this. Comes down to Turning Point USA's finances, goes back to those Egyptian planes. It all seems to be coming together, so we'll discuss it all. In addition to that, some heinous LGBTQIA LMNOP school board, well, I guess it's across the whole state, legislation that's being passed in Michigan, and we'll talk about it all. All of that and more, so make sure you stick around. But first, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review. You can catch us on YouTube where you can actually see the videos or listen to us on any podcast platform. So leave a 5-star review, hit subscribe, do the thing. That's the only way that this grows. And no matter what, I appreciate you. And if you want to, head over to RoninBasics.com, RONIN Basics, RoninBasics.com. That is my Faraday company. We do Faraday baseball hats with silver-lined fabric to protect you from EMFs. We also do phone sleeves, credit card sleeves that stop NFC and any of the hacking into your credit cards. The phone sleeves stop all inbound and outbound tracking, all signals to make you untraceable to the government, to corporations, add whatevers, right? All of the stuffs, it stops it. All inbound and outbound signals, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, 5G, all of it. RoninBasics.com. You can also find us on Amazon. And yeah, lots of good stuff to talk about today. I'm excited about it, and I hope that you are too. I'm fairly positive that this is a simulation and it's a comedy. It's got to be a comedy. With all the stuff that's happening, like literally the Clinton Trump thing, like how do you not just laugh? Like you cannot take politics seriously. You cannot take our government seriously. You can't take any of this seriously. Right? And thank God we have more to live for than our government, because if that was the end all be all, we would be in trouble. But luckily, like I said, thank God it's not. So, yeah, let's go ahead. Lots of good things to talk about. Let's jump into it.
The Adams Archive.
All right. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about today is Michigan has passed legislation in a vote that was 6-2 to bring new sex ed teachings to schools, including teaching gender ideology, teaching abortion as a way of family planning, among other heinous things. So let's talk about that right now. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. We'll discuss it. And here not that one. There we go. Michigan adopts a sex education standards recommending students be taught gender ideology, sexual orientation, and more. Okay. So let's read a little bit more about this. Now, I thought we were done with this. I thought when Trump came into office that he literally said that he would pull funding for schools or for federally or state funded. I guess he can't do it for state. That's going to be where the problem lies, right? But let's read this. We'll see what happens. It says the Michigan State Board of Education approved new state sex education standards, which included recommendations that students be taught about gender ideology, identity, and sexual orientation. The Michigan Health Education Standards guidelines were adopted on Thursday after a 6-2 vote, despite pushback from some parents and pastors who argue they undermine parental rights and religious liberties. That's not an argument. It absolutely does. And it's made very clear by the actual videos of these people speaking at this education meeting. And we'll watch that in just a second. It says state education officials say parents still have the option to take their children out with no penalty. Language also added to the new standards addressing what state law says about health and sex education, local control of schools, and parental choice. Now, 100 people got up during this. 100 parents got up to give public comment. And almost all of them were against it. Right? You know, the people with children. It's crazy to me that we're even still having this conversation, especially when we see that transgenderism, whatever you want to call it, is plummeted in the last couple of years. Especially once you see that the support for this has essentially disappeared, right? But you go into a liberal state like Michigan, and this is what happens when you have 8 radicalized, I guess 6 in this case, radicalized individuals who are at the helm of 100% of the students of the state and of the children of the parents who occupy them. And that is where the problem lies. Now, I have a certain problem with this. The reason I have a certain problem with this is because my children go to school in Michigan. And when you ask me who should be talking to my child about sex when they're in 5th grade, who should be talking and teaching my child about abortion when they're in 6th grade, the answer most definitely is not some random adult who decided to teach children as their occupation for a living. Some random 24-year-old girl who just got out of a university that taught them all the most radicalized beliefs. Some random man who decided that he wanted to spend all of his time around 10-year-old children as an occupation. That's not going to be generally who I think I'm going to decide I want teaching my children about gender, because there should be a fairly straightforward conversation about gender. There's 2 of them. Next subject. You know what they should teach these children? If you want to go down this path, what you should teach these children is what I learned when I was in school, which is the fact that according to the DSM-5, you know, the book that you have to read on psychology, right? The actual literal medical book on psychology, according to the DSM-5, gender dysphoria is a mental illness. And that's what I learned in school. Right? Even if you want to go ahead and teach them that autogynephilia is, you know, a man wanting to dress up as a woman as a sexual fetish, if you want to teach them that that's a thing so that they know who to look out for predators, right? They know who to look for when they're looking for predators. Right? If there's a guy in the women's bathroom, even if he's wearing a dress, leave the restroom immediately because he's probably some sicko. This is what they should be teaching kids in school, right? Not teaching that, you just, if you're an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old and you feel a little uncomfortable in your body, that's not puberty. You want to be the opposite gender. And oh, by the way, if you want to be the opposite gender, we have a solution for that. It's testosterone therapy. Oh, and by the way, you can get a mastectomy and we can actually cut off your organs, or we can cut off your body parts and make you identify more with your mental illness. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to tell your parents. We won't even tell your parents, right? We'll call you by the name that you want us to call you. This is sick. It's disgusting. It's gross. And I thought we were done with it. But instead, you're going to subject my kids, well, not my kids, because I will die on a hill when it comes to this. I will homeschool my children. I will send them to private school. I will do whatever I need to do to not have to deal with this. And if you do have to deal with this as a parent, the solution is teaching your kids their craziness before your kids hear it from them first. What they want is they want you to be afraid of these discussions as a parent. What they want is for you to keep your opinion to yourself and to send your kids off to school and abdicate the responsibility of these discussions to these random adults at school, and you never talk to them about it. But what you need to do, if you're not going to be somebody who can homeschool your child, if you're not going to be somebody who can put your child in private school, what you need to do is frame this for them. You need to have these discussions with them preemptively. If they're having these discussions in 5th grade, you need to have these discussions in 3rd grade before they hit 4th grade and they have 5th grade buddies. If they're going to talk to your children about, I don't know, abortion, and teach them that it's a right to family planning, right? It's a good way to make sure that you plan your family properly. You need to teach them in 3rd grade. If they're teaching them that in 5th grade or 6th grade, you need to teach them that in 3rd grade or 4th grade, that is a baby in the womb, that is a child of God, and that you are taking a life away from this universe and all of the possibilities that could have came from it, all of the friendships, all of the children they would have had, all of the love, all of the joy that they would have experienced. You are taking that from them. You're taking them that from this world. It's not a form of family planning. Oh, and by the way, maybe this is the 6th grade conversation, but they sell the body parts of those aborted fetuses for profit. And here's some videos of them discussing their Lamborghinis that James O'Keefe has from body cam footage of them discussing this with Planned Parenthood. I don't know. That seems like the solution to me. The only way to combat bad speech is good speech. And if they're going to be teaching children those things, you have to be teaching them first. They respect you way more than they respect their teachers, right? They believe you. They know you're telling them the truth. They know that you have their best interest in mind. And you not only have to teach them the actual facts about these subjects, but you have to teach them what's happening on the underlying fabric of these things, right? You have to go into these conversations, and they might be a little bit uncomfortable for you. But guess what? Your child's going to be so much better off and so thankful that you did, that they're able to immediately, the second that their teacher starts to have those conversations with them, they go, oh yeah, my dad told me about this. That's a mental illness. That's a mental illness. That's not, that's not the proper move isn't cutting off your body parts. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's crazy talk. And maybe they can sit there in class and you teach them to be respectful, or maybe you teach them to speak up and challenge their teacher. Either way, teach them first. That's the only answer. And so here, let's watch this video. I think this is important to see. Here is the Board of Michigan, the Board of Education in Michigan, and a scientist that is up in front of them saying the most egregious thing you've ever heard. Here it is.
So I'm sorry, parents do not know best. Scientists know the best. Experts know the best. So I strongly support the standards and to enable and empower all students to feel safe, educated, knowing who they are, and knowing that it's okay to be who they are.
If you want to teach them who they are, teach them to be confident in themselves. Don't teach them to pretend to be something they're not. And no, scientists don't know better than parents for their children's well-being. You have no vested interest in that child. You have a selfish desire to spread the ideology that you believe in. You don't have a vested interest in those children. You don't. And as we found out from COVID, no, scientists don't know better than anyone about literally anything other than what they've been told is the truth when they go to university, right? I go back to the Kary Mullis, right? Kary Mullis being the scientist who developed the PCR test. You know, the same one that they used to determine whether it was whether you had COVID or not. PCR testing. Essentially, what PCR testing is, we can go into a whole thing. It takes the DNA sample and it expands it out to the widest that it can be, and it essentially tries to look for the biggest traces of certain things to identify if it's within the genetic sequencing or whatever. And so then what it does is the amount that it expands it is based on the amount of cycles that you run it through the PCR test. And then what Kary Mullis said, again, who created this, won a Nobel Peace Prize for this, he said, if you expand it far enough out, it makes you believe in the theory of everything, which is that everything is connected. Everything can be found in anything. if you run it on enough cycles, which is why when they were running PCR testings for COVID, they ran them far too high. And that was what was causing the false positives, and the rate of COVID infection that we saw was the fact that they were expanding it so far out that the tiniest trace of almost anything could have been found, and they would say that they found COVID. Right? As they were, the highest it was supposed to be ran was like, I think it was like 9 or 10, and they were running it 42 cycles. So anyways, I can't even, oh yeah. Carrie Mullis said, and by the way, Carrie Mullis died just a couple of months, I believe, before COVID happened. You know, before they weaponized his technology in a way that he completely disagreed with, that he was very outspoken with. Very interesting. But back to the main point, which is the fact that Carrie Mullis said that essentially, imagine being the smartest Egyptian mathematician. Imagine, you know everything, right? The smartest Egyptian mathematician knows everything, just like our scientists sit here and pretend to know everything today. But in reality, they only know what they've been taught. They only know what the books that they've read have told them. And by the way, who funds the books? Who funds the narratives? Could it be Maxwell? Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, who purchased one of the biggest education books in history? Could it be the George Soros Foundation? Could it be that these books are bought and paid for by the organizations and families that want to propagandize the public for profit? Again, follow the money. Right? It doesn't just have to be about ideology or destabilization of the country, which it very well is. It's also about money, which just makes the conversation simple, right? If you're putting somebody on hormone replacement therapy, you're making, if you put 1,000 people on it, you're making so much money. If you're doing gender surgery, it's like $120,000 surgery. Do that hundreds, thousands of times a year. That's tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars going to surgeons, going to hospital systems, going to all of these organizations, not even talking about the pharmaceutical companies that are then involved in the ongoing care of these individuals, instead of, giving them some therapy that they probably need. Like, honestly, I've been fatigued. I was fatigued for quite some time because I put out so many videos about this. Like, this was the front that we fought on for quite some time. And it was a nice reprieve from this. But to see that this is still ongoing, still happening, and still something that my children are going to have to deal with, not only with their friends and the parents of those friends in these liberal areas, but also their school systems, the people who are in a position of power over them, that they're expecting to take care of them, that we're expecting to take care of them. And they get the opportunity to brainwash our children with their sexual ideology. They get to promote these fetishes to my children. Not only that, but they also repealed some act that made it like illegal to hand out condoms. Like, I don't need you handing my child condoms. I don't need you teaching them that abortion is a form of family planning. And again, it is absolutely against religious beliefs. Like, life happens in the womb. That is what's there. It is a child. If gone untouched, and by untouched I mean unmurdered, that baby will become a walking, talking adult one day who loves and who learns and laughs and experiences hardship and perseverance and builds their own self-confidence and leads a life that nobody else on this earth will ever lead. And just how atrocious that they're going to teach that in our schools. And the fact that these 8 people, all it takes is two people to have a radicalized opinion in this group, and then it's split from that half and half decision. And obviously it's going to happen in a state like Michigan, which is just atrocious. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. I'm done ranting about that. It's sad that I even have to. So the next thing that we're going to discuss is going to be, let me go ahead and pull this up here, is going to be the Epstein files. Dun, dun, dun. So finally, we've gotten, I believe it was over 26,000 emails that were released regarding from Epstein. And this was from the House Oversight Committee. So you can actually go look at the House Oversight Committee website. There's over 20,000 emails that were released, and you can find and sift through all of them. Highly recommend that you do. All right, so let's jump into these files. Again, 20,000 files released on the White House Oversight Committee, but here are a few of them. Now, there's one in particular that everybody seems to be talking about, and we'll get to that last. And you probably know which one I'm addressing. But some people I've talked to out in the wild, like even family members of mine, didn't even know this was a thing until I mentioned it. Yeah, it's crazy. So here's a thread of them. We'll walk through a few of them together, and then we'll see what some of your guys' thoughts are. Here. Now, one thing that I will say is this isn't all-encompassing. Obviously, there's 20,000 emails. These are the ones that people picked out. Now, I do have some skepticism about why these ones were the ones that were picked out. I don't think they're probably the most damning or the most insightful. Like, there's not the most depth to them. There is one in particular subject that was raised as a result of this that I think is very worth a discussion. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's talk through some of the surface level ones. Essentially, let me go ahead and share this with you. Essentially, what the first string of these says. First one is Epstein to Larry Summers. And it says, I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body, said Jeffrey Epstein, the alleged Mossad agent who trafficked underage girls to elite people. I wonder what types of things you could have done for this type of man to say that he's never met someone as bad as you. I literally cannot even fathom it, especially knowing what types of stuff the Hollywood elites are into, which gets worse than what we're seeing here with just Epstein. We go back to some of the original QAnon stuff that people were talking about, which really gets crazy now. Right? Why is nobody talking about QAnon anymore? Wasn't Trump supposed to save us from all of the pedophiles? Wasn't Trump supposed to, wasn't there all these secret codes and WWFEG, that all these secret, niche posting boards knew about? What happened to QAnon? What happened to Trump saving the world from the pedophiles? Little did we know he was one of them the whole time. That's what it is. And that's what I think has been the most discouraging about the last, 7 months, is that I, like many people, believed in what Trump stood for. And how we've gone from such a 180 from his first 4 years until today is so disappointing. And what he stood for to so many people, literally tens of millions of people around our country, was a real movement. It was a real thing that people wanted. People wanted transparency. People wanted somebody who was real. Everybody wanted somebody who spoke honestly. People want somebody in there who isn't a part of the system, who isn't compromised, who doesn't have blackmail against them. That's what people wanted. That movement still exists today. It just does not exist with Trump. And that was a sad reality for a lot of people, including myself. I voted for Trump both times. And then there's always the conversation like, oh, well, he wasn't as bad as Kamala. I mean, maybe. But after seeing some of these files and seeing the first, however many months of this presidency, incompetence versus willful, I don't even know the word. I don't know. I just don't think that Trump was the person we all thought he was. And that's sad. He really stood for, he really was the icon for something that he shouldn't have been. And I hope one day that we can have somebody in office who really does embody that, who really is an honest, hardworking person who has morals and values and is God-fearing and acts accordingly. The most telling thing was Trump saying, I'm not getting into heaven. There's nothing I could do to get into heaven. You haven't read one page of the Bible if you think that's how that works. It's crazy to see how just naive he is. And I guess it's not naivety, but I don't know. It's sad. The whole thing's sad. It bums me out. And then there's J.D. Vance. Again, this will ruin his legacy. Even if J.D. Vance was who people say he is now, I don't think he is at all. I don't think anybody that's in office now is who they say they are. I will forever have skepticism around literally every politician, as stupid as it is to say that you didn't think that originally. J.D. Vance was very well spoken. He is a great speaker on stage. And man, I was rooting for him too, but it's just not going to work. It can't work now. It cannot work. It will not work. He just is the legacy of Donald Trump and will be that. And he just will not be that next person. But I'm at the same time, I'm also excited that there's so many people in this country. There is such a movement that there will be somebody who embodies that movement. We just have to make sure that it's genuine and that it's not astroturfed like Trump was. Anyways, the emails. Lots of rants today, guys. I hope you're bearing with me. Lots of rants. So the emails, basically he says, I've never met somebody as bad as Trump. That's a crazy thing coming from Jeffrey Epstein. The next one was Jeffrey Epstein in 2018 to Landon Thomas Jr. And in this email, the exchange starts with, he feels alone and is nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief, mad, and most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack. Stormy Daniels, lies after lies after lies. One thing I noticed throughout these emails is the people who are responding in this way, like I think it's the way that Jeffrey Epstein kind of speaks even, which is interesting. His grammar is like atrocious. Even it's almost like this like weird cryptic, he has these random commas, these double spaces, a period, and then a question mark. It's all in lowercase until it's not. Like, some of this is just weird, especially for somebody who's trying to pretend that they're a Harvard graduate and this brilliant financier. Like, you'd think you'd know how to place commas correctly and use a keyboard. It's weird to me. I have to assume it's intentional. I don't know why, but it is very clearly intentional and weird. Then there's Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. That dog that hasn't barked is Trump. So-and-so, the victim, spent hours at my house with him, and he has never once been mentioned. Not sure what that means either. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Again, weird, cryptic, bizarre, just doesn't make any sense to me. The cadence of the speech is just off. The next one, here's one that people are calling damning. Right. And I would say, by the way, I went over the Epstein files, like the black book with you guys. I did that over a year or 2 years ago. I went over this. I've called it out multiple times. I knew Epstein's name was in there. I knew this was coming. I lost thousands and thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram and everywhere else as a result of it, which is fine. But I knew this was coming. You, in the back of your mind, probably knew this was coming too. They're all compromised, every one of them. You don't get into this position unless you are. And that gets even more interesting as we move into the last email. And if you go all the way back, you saw that even Trump's daughter flew on the plane of Epstein. Who would let that happen? All right, here's one to Landon Thompson Jr. Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? So all the people, like, and again, I don't know if there's that many people, but there was people online trying to like discredit the idea that he was a Mossad agent who was blackmailing people, like obviously blackmailing people. Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? 2015. The next one. Have them ask my houseman about Donald Trump almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass about young girls. I don't see anything there. Like the stories I could tell about Trump. I know how dirty Donald is. Like it just goes on and on. Again, I don't think these are like, there's going to be more to this. Now, here's one that's interesting. Jeffrey Epstein to somebody in 2019. Jeffrey Epstein says, Prince Andrew and Trump today, too funny. Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came out of Mar-a-Lago. That's Virginia Gruff, or however you pronounce her name. Can't believe nobody is making you the connective tissue. Now, I guess we don't know who the sender is being redacted there. Now, something that was interesting, too, was that Trump met with Epstein in 2017. And I think even later, like 2019, too. And that was after Epstein. Like, I got to look at the timeline here. But essentially the idea, and it comes to a point in this that where they talk about it, is essentially making fun of the idea that Jeffrey Epstein is going to go to jail and Trump is going to be the person who indicts him but knows about the whole thing. Let me see if I can find it. This one's interesting to unknown. It will all blow over, it says. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that. He said, yes. Again, triple, quadruple space, thanks. Quintuple space, it's wild. Quadruple space, because I am the one able to take him down. Again, blackmail scheme. Now, again, I don't think those ones are the ones that are like truly damning, but there is some juicier stuff in here that I think we can get to. But here's the interesting part about all of this. Now, Trump wants to release the files. Now, after we have all these emails come out, now, after he's been painted in this way, now he wants to release it. Now, we'll watch this video in a second where he talks about it. But maybe is that because, I guess there's a couple different angles of this. One angle could be that it wasn't as damning as it could have been, and he was truly just trying to protect his ego, and he was trying not to be embarrassed because he knew it was in these emails. Spoiler alert, one of them says that he blew Bill Clinton or Bubba. Right now we'll find that one in just a minute. But I think it's relevant when we watch this and I kind of talk about this angle here. Maybe the idea is that Trump saw what was in those emails, saw the associations, knew that he was shown as closer with Epstein than probably could have was alluding to prior. And now that that's out there, he wants to go after everybody else, right? Option one. That's probably the most generous to Trump. Option two is that all of the ones that are going to be scrubbed have been scrubbed, and that's why it took so long. And by the way, this is the whole reason for the government shutdown. The whole reason for the government shutdown was to delay this from happening. So in the meantime, in those 4 months or 2 months or whatever for the government shutdown, it was 2 months. During that time, how much evidence was scrubbed? How much do you think? Take a guess. Right? If they knew this was inevitable, if they knew there was that many signatures, they shut down the government, stopped people from getting their food stamps, right? Told air traffic controllers to kick rocks, whatever, didn't pay military members, all because they didn't want the Epstein files leaked. But if they knew it was going to come out, maybe they didn't think that the government can't be shut down forever. Maybe they were trying to get votes, couldn't get enough votes to stop this from coming out, and then went into damage control mode. Scrubbed all the emails they could. Even the ones that, although I'm sure the most damning of evidence was the hundreds of thousands of hours of CP that whatever alluded to, Pam Bondi, all of that. But here's Trump talking about his position now. Remind you that he said this was all a hoax. It didn't exist. None of it was true. He wasn't in there. And, oh, by the way, the Democrats are just lying. Okay, now that we have that context, let's go ahead and watch this clip.
Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others. They're all Democrats. All I want for people to recognize a great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought price.
Weird transition, very salesy. All I'm saying is that the Democrats were the ones with the child pedophile guy, and I've done a great job on the economy. Weird.
This is way down, but they're going way lower. On energy, on ending 8 wars, and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. We've already given 50,000 pages.
And see how the only reason that he wants to release these now is because of his ego. Oh, it's undermining all of the great stuff I'm doing. No. Not the fact that we want to actually that we actually want to get to the justice and the truth. And oh, by the way, I campaigned on this, so maybe I should close out that, that promise. No. Not the fact that there was thousands of young underage women who were taken advantage of. Oh, not the fact that the prince and the Saudi guys and all of the highest level scientists and professors and universities and these celebrities and all of that. No. It's about Trump's ego. It's about, it's all of these children that were sexually molested by powerful elites. That's taking away from the fact that I'm doing a great job today. That's a pretty sick response.
I do know that. Unfortunately, like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther King situation, not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, But no matter what we give, it's never enough. You know, with Kennedy, we gave everything, and it wasn't enough. With Martin Luther King, we gave everything, and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages. 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that many of the people some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party.
Again, what a weird response. What a terrible take on this.
Including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars with that, at a lot of inconvenience. So I'm for any, I don't, they can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them. And it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. And I don't want to take it away from really the greatness of what the Republican Party has accomplished over the last period of time.
Yeah, notice he doesn't mention Peter Thiel there either. Interesting. So there's Trump's opinion. Let's see what some people have to say about that. Yeah, I'm also not totally convinced that blackmail power plays by foreign entities is only affected the Democrats. Like, especially when the fact that your name's all over it, bud. You're all over it. Like, how the gaslighting attempts by these politicians irks me beyond belief. Like, how dumb, how stupid, how long are you going to tell me that my reality doesn't exist? So there's his response on that. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next thing here. So this was something that I found to be interesting. Let me make sure I did jump ahead here. Okay. So one interesting post about this comes from Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb wrote the One Nation Under Blackmail book, which is the manifesto, the entire breakdown of what happened with Epstein. And so if you want the actual expert on all of this, Whitney Webb's your girl. Go get her book. The One Nation Under Blackmail. It breaks down everything perfectly. Now, one thing she's talking about is the Clayton appointment, the individual who was appointed to actually oversee this prosecution. So Geoffrey Berman was pressured to step down by the first Trump administration, roughly a year after prosecuting Epstein in 2019. As I recall, around the same time when Berman was targeting Steve Bannon, Bill Barr tried to have Clayton replace him in 2020, but was unsuccessful. Clayton spent the time waiting to be ushered into the position by Trump earlier this year at Epstein associate Leon Black's Apollo Global in a board position they seemingly just made for him. In other words, Clayton is the guy the first Trump administration and Bill Barr specifically wanted to replace the people who had Epstein and later Maxwell arrested. And when they couldn't do it, a super rich Epstein associate gave him tons of money, and now he has been installed in that position to investigate Epstein. They've investigated themselves and seen no wrongdoing, guys. In case you're curious, no concern should be had. So the context of this is in response to Pam Bondi's post on the 14th, so just 3 days ago, where she says, "Thank you, Mr. President. U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton is one of the most capable and trusted prosecutors in the country." So let's start from the bottom. That would make more sense. Trump posted this, then we'll get to Pam Bondi's, then we'll look at the response and how that plays into it. So Donald Trump posted, "Now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving the Democrats, not Republicans," he says, "to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all of their failures, I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice together with our great patriots at the FBI to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in the relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan Chase, and many other people at institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. This is another Russia scam, with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Stay tuned." Okay. As with all matters, she says, "The department will pursue this with urgency and integrity to deliver answers to the American people." Like, this is such a dog whistle. So Pam Bondi's like, yes, sir, I will go do that for you immediately. After they just said that, oh, the tapes that we talked about existing don't exist. Oh, and you're saying this is absolutely a hoax. These files aren't even real. Essentially these victims don't even exist and nothing ever happened there. That's why we raided it. That's why they both went to jail, and that's why there's no victims who have been brought over. But essentially the idea is that the person that they're having prosecute this case essentially is the one, and to oversee and go through this, was a part of this, right? No surprises there. But what is surprising, well, I guess we'll be on that topic in a second. Here's Thomas Massey talking about Kash Patel and the FBI's cover-up of this.
Is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to the Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to the Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors, such as Virginia Roberts. May she rest in peace. That list also includes...
May she rest in peace, because she took her own life conveniently, like several months ago, right when these Epstein files were set to come out and all these victims came together. And, oh, and by the way, her family doesn't think that she committed suicide. Go on, Thomas.
At least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of two different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present?
How insulting. Like, literally how insulting to be sitting there saying that there's no credible evidence that there was any trafficking done to these powerful individuals. Who did Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein go to jail for trafficking children to? Like, those are literally prosecuted, convicted, in jail. Who do they traffic to? Where are the sex crimes? Like, what do you mean? Prince Andrew, no longer Prince, because he denounced his title, because he brought so much shame onto his family, did so because of this. Bill Gates' wife divorced him over this. We have flight logs. We have victim accounts. We have statements made under oath. And yet you, as the head of the FBI, are going to sit in front of us and lie to the face of the American people about the worst thing you could ever imagine happening to your daughter, to your wife, to your mother, to the women that we are supposed to protect in this country. And you're going to stand there with your bug eyes and tell us that none of it exists. Like, man, that is how you know that riots are all fake. Because if we're not rioting about this, if we're not revolting about this, if we're not dismantling the current government structure that is built upon the backs of the victimized female children, what is it? Nobody's in the streets. Nobody's overturning cars. Nobody's lining up and pushing back against police officers over this. Nothing. So it's either one of two things. Either every one of the current riots over the past several years has been astroturfed, or Republicans, I guess all of us, but Republicans just have to be pussies then. That's the only answer, other than the fact that everything else was astroturfed. And we're all just so satiated. We're all just scrolling all day. We're all just intaking all the information and watching the football game and playing video games and you know, scrolling TikTok. We're all too satiated, too gluttonous with empty matters to care about the things that truly do and have an opinion about the way that it's going to affect our children. Literally in this case. Because do you think that stopped? Do you not think there's another Epstein out there? Do you not think there's 10 different islands? You don't think there's a power vacuum that just got sucked up and brought another individual in there? You don't think there's another Diddy out there? You don't think there's another Epstein out there? You don't think there's more honeypots being had by the Israeli Mossad? Like, what is it? What's going to cause us to actually get upset enough to go to the streets? It's crazy. I'm like baffled by this. And then you have Kash Patel sitting there saying that there's no credible evidence. There's more evidence in the Epstein files than any prosecuted sex trafficking case in history. It's the most watched, and it's also been the most gaslit from the American governmental system down to us. And then he has the audacity. Kash Patel has the audacity. This man goes from going from a Senate hearing or a House, congressional hearing to look Thomas Massie in the eye and say, there's no credible evidence with Epstein. And then goes to Twitter, goes to X and says, has the balls to say, 122 children rescued, a powerful reminder of what's possible when our federal, state, and local partners work with urgency and precision. Grateful to every agency that stood shoulder to shoulder on this mission. Under President Trump's leadership, we'll keep hunting the predators who target our kids and bring them to justice. You coward. How embarrassing. How gross. How disgusting. This childless, impotent predator in and of himself dating some 24-year-old girl. And then has the audacity to sit here and gaslight you and say, oh, thanks to President Trump and my FBI, we're going after the predators. And then look Thomas Massie dead in the eye and say there's no such thing as the Epstein files, that there's no victims. It was all fake. You coward. How unbelievable. How gross. It's infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Now, one thing that I think is the most interesting from the emails that came out, well, I guess let me take a step back. Let me try to calm myself down a little bit. Here's the email that everybody's talking about. Here's the one that everybody's talking about. It's simple. It's to the point. And here's what it's between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother. And it says, this is what I was talking about earlier, where it says, I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes, Epstein says. Epstein responds, you mean Donnie T? And again, I don't know who Donnie D is. There's some like cryptic weirdness. But Mark Epstein says, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard, which is actually kind of funny because I just watched that movie like a few months back, and a hilarious movie. And they would be an interesting characters within that movie. But if you see the context, it's essentially where Will Ferrell is going to jail and he's some prominent financier. And then you have Kevin Hart, who pretends to essentially be a convict and teaches him how to act in jail and this whole thing. And then it says, and I thought I had Surus. Again, like, what is Surus? TSURIS. Am I just dumb? Is this man just super cryptic? Trouble and aggravation. Yeah, you're just being a pompous ass. Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. There's the email. Yeah, that's it. Bubba being Bill Clinton, allegedly. But then Mark Epstein comes out and says, well, that's not who we're talking about there. Let me see if I can find that one. Because I'm sure Bubba gave him a call. Bill Clinton gave him a call and said, yeah, we need to fix this. Or Trump did, one or the other. Right. New. Mark Epstein says, here we go. For immediate release from Mark Epstein regarding Bubba reference in recently released emails. In light of recent speculation surrounding the release, this is a legitimate email that went out 2 days ago from his brother. In light of recent speculation surrounding the release of internal emails related to the Jeffrey Epstein case, Mark Epstein issues the following statement to clarify a point that has been misinterpreted in public discussion. Recently in emails, he says, from 2018 between my brother and me were made public. They were simply part of a humorous private exchange between two brothers and were never meant for public release or to be interpreted as serious remarks. You know, he got a fuming call from Trump saying that he could do some unbelievable things to him and his family. For the avoidance of doubt, the reference to Bubba in this correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton, his brother says. Any attempt to conflate that reference with President Clinton or to read sweeping implications into them misrepresents both the purpose and the tone of the original correspondence. Imagine sending an email with your brother and being like, yeah, tell him about the time Trump blew Bill Clinton. And all of a sudden that becomes public record and you have to make a statement about it. We live in a comedy, dude. We live in a comedy. And there's nothing you can say to convince me otherwise. At least when it comes to the governmental, docuseries that is happening in the background. Any attempt, I want to be absolutely clear on any point so that the public record is not distorted and so that speculation does not unfairly implicate people who are not actually being referenced in those communications. I don't want people to unfairly think that Trump blew Bill Clinton. Okay. Mr. Epstein reiterates his interest in an accurate public record and a fact-based discussion on the circumstances surrounding his brother's death. Misrepresentations of informal language or nicknames in email correspondence only serve to distract from the serious questions that remain unanswered. Hilarious. Crazy. Hilarious. How silly. Ridiculous. We live in a comedy. All right. Now that we got that one out of the way, I know you were waiting on that one. But now that we got that one out of the way, okay, one more question. Who's Bubba then, bud? Who's Bubba, Mr. Mark Epstein? Tell us. You can't tell us it's not Bill Clinton. Like, you didn't say I was making a joke. You said, no, it's not Bill Clinton. There's another Bubba out there who's very satiated, I'm sure, who's either laughing or shaking in their boots thinking that they're going to actually be found out as the true Bubba. There is another Bubba out there right now. If Mark Epstein is telling the truth, if Mark Epstein is telling the truth and Bill Clinton is not Bubba, who's the Bubba? That's all I want to know. And you can't just tell us, you didn't tell us you were joking. You just said, no, it's not that Bubba. It's a different one. Oh, man. All right, let's move on. But first, if you're enjoying this episode, and if you enjoy honest truth and, somewhat enjoyable, humorous commentary on this comedy we call life, hit the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review. It's literally the only way that this podcast grows. I truly enjoy doing this for you guys. I plan on doing it for many years to come. The only way it grows is if you leave a review and if you share it with your friends, families, coworkers, whatever. So go ahead, leave a review. It's even better if you write something. That would be, if you want to make my day. You haven't done a good deed today, you can do it right now. Head over, go to Apple Podcasts, hit the 5-star review button, write something nice, write something funny, whatever it is. Write something. It can be short. It can be long. Write it out. Leave a review. I would honestly, truly appreciate it. And yeah, that's what I got. So let's jump into the next topic. And if you want to, head to RoninBasics.com. Get yourself a Faraday phone sleeve, Faraday hat. Makes a great gift for the holidays. For your fellow conspiracy theorists, you can get a real tinfoil hat that looks amazing, feels great. It's honestly, like dead serious, honestly, the best hat I've ever owned. It's a custom designed. I designed it. The fabric is unbelievable. The structure is better than any hat you've ever had. If it's not, text me. I'll like literally, I don't know, we'll figure something out, but I promise you it's the best hat you'll ever own. I mean, it's just honesty. I've never seen a better, more quality structured hat. You buy these like $50 hats, $40 hats on Amazon, and like I'm always like appalled compared to the ones that I've developed. So check it out, RoninBasics.com. You can also get it on Amazon. Also, the phone sleeves, they're for like a limited time on Amazon. Get it on Amazon because it's a little bit cheaper for now. They won't be coming shortly. But if you are somewhat skeptical of all the cell phone towers your phone is connecting to and all the tracking and all of the advertising and all of the this and all of the that and the corporatism and the government and all you have to do is pop your phone in the phone bag. Or even if you're going camping and you want to get one for you, your wife, put them in there. You are absolutely 100% disconnected from all of the rest of the world. Just saying. It's a great way to actually be present. Get one for each of your kids. Get one for you. Put it in the middle of the table while you have dinner. That's all I'm saying. Get out of, just disconnect from reality for a little bit. All right. Now let's talk about this, which is the fact that Candace Owens came out today and dropped a new episode. And she has been, I've been following it pretty closely, and I hope that you have been too. Candace Owens has been doing a great job crowdsourcing information, crowdsourcing tips about Charlie Kirk. And you know, I wish that there was a better, it's hard to say, it's hard to like weekend or Monday night quarterback or whatever they say in the, whatever. I wish it was a little bit more like she goes down this way and then this way and then this way and then this way and then this way, right? All of a sudden there's like these Mormon pastors, and then there's this Egyptian flight, and then there's Mikey McCoy, and then there's Rob McCoy, and then there's Charlie Kirk's security detail, and then there's the Israel, and then there's so many offshoots that it's hard to kind of keep track. And so if I had enough time, I would put together this like beautiful mind map that brings it all together. That's the way my mind works. I need things like that, like visuals that help me, because it's hard to track. It's hard to follow all of it. But she's doing a great job, and I'm sure she just like pulls on a thread, and then it all starts to unravel, and then she sees this thread over here, and eventually it's going to all come together. She even brought up like Britney Spears and Michael Jackson, and it's crazy. Like all these things can kind of come together. Yeah, super crazy. So anyways, so what came out today was big breaking news. I had mentioned that there was this Egyptian flight that was following Charlie Kirk. She had talked about it. They tracked it, essentially 29 locations that Charlie had been over the last like 4 years or 3 years. 29 locations that Charlie had been. This Egyptian military aircraft had been there too at the same exact time. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Come to find out, 79 times that Egyptian military aircraft was where Erica Kirk was. That's kind of weird. Far more than even Charlie Kirk. So let's go ahead and watch this clip where Candace Owens explains this situation, and we'll listen to it together.
9:23 a.m. local time. I suspect that if he had instead landed into Provo, he would have recognized the blue Egyptian plane, okay? It's not every day that you see an Egyptian military craft. It is now my well-informed opinion that he would have looked at that plane and he would have recognized the blue plane, and he would have instantly realized that something was amiss. And now I'm going to explain to you very carefully why I suspect that it is highly likely that Charlie would have recognized that plane, okay? Tail number SUBND, the blue plane. A pregnant mommy sleuth who was locked into this investigation discovered something that me and my team had missed. I consider her, obviously, and all of you to be my decentralized intelligence agents. She sent me a rather urgent email, and I'm obviously protecting her identity for reasons that are clear, but I want you to know that this discovery is due entirely to her. She is the person that, in this regard, went max for Charlie when I missed something. Her email stated, in effect, that I was only partially right about the plane tracking Charlie, that she had done an additional 15 hours of research and was able to discern that the person the planes were actually tracking for years was Erica. Not Charlie, but Erica was the one being tracked by these planes. And indeed, it turns out that she was correct. She discovered that between 2022 and September of 2025, both of those aircrafts, SUBTT, the yellow plane, and SUBND, the blue plane, showed 68 overlaps with Erica's documented locations, okay? 68 overlaps. I have since been able to add now 73 times that this overlapped, okay? And 29 of those instances also happened to include Charlie. Charlie was also present. And that's what I was stumbling upon when I was looking into this. I was like, why is this plane where Charlie is? The flights were majority clustered within 5 states: Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Delaware, and Utah. And it's a pattern.
And this is where it gets kind of interesting for me to try to like draw a conclusion from these things. So like, because Candace doesn't take us like all the way to the end. She's like pulling on these strings, pulling on these strings, pulling on these strings. Like she doesn't make the end all be all encompassing accusation that can come from what she's discussing. Right. So it's like, okay, so if they were there 73 times following Erica Kirk for years, what is the implication? Is the implication that they were tracking her and that they were going to enact this action? Like, is this a foreign government? I mean, I know she mentions Egypt as a potential like proxy leverage of Israel. Like, what is the implication here? Where does this tie into it all? That's where I would like to see like a little bit more like, bring me there, bring me home on this. And again, she's doing a great job. And I can't imagine being in her position where she's getting all this input. But how do we help her with this and try to connect these dots a little bit? So that's why I need to go back. I created the GPT where I put all of her episodes transcribed into it and try to create some timelines and some character outlines and like all the players and all the people and all the places and all the things. I need to get to work on that because I know she needs the help because she has like a 4-person team. And I'm sure just taking some time out to really organize this and try to figure out like, and maybe she has this big vision in the back of her head. That's what she makes it seem like a lot of times. But it's hard for me to get there. Like, okay, what is the implications of this? What is the Egyptian military doing there? Is it Israel? Is it the proxy? Why would they be following her 73 times? Are they her security detail? Have they been following her the whole time? Is she a plant from Israel? Like, and they're her security, or they're just overseeing her? Like, they're her handlers. What is happening here? I just need that next step. Like, I need the information. I'm thirsty for it.
That she believes is statistically not random. I am telling you this information has been completely verified. I am showing you this on a spreadsheet. Now, these are all of the instances in which this plane, all 68 instances that this plane crossed with Erica. And I'm also going to say this includes overseas as well. Okay. So my instant question becomes, why didn't Turning Point acknowledge that this plane was familiar to them? When I was taking all of these figurative online bullets, someone could have easily said something, right? That's kind of a repeat thing in this investigation. Josh Hammer lies, I get attacked. Turning Point just stays silent. They know he's lying, but they allow the lie to flow. Alex Clark lies, I get attacked, I'm telling the truth. Turning Point knows it, but they kind of allow this like Catholic thing, lie to flow. And the influencers are allowed to lie. Nobody at Turning Point ever just steps to clarify that I'm onto something or I'm telling the truth about something.
And I do find that interesting about this whole thing is that at no point, not a single point that she's made, all which have been verifiable, by the way. Like, she hasn't made a single claim that has turned out to be just like completely false and totally out of the realm of what's possible. If you're a friend of Charlie, you are a advocate for truth. And Candace Owens is doing nothing but trying to find the truth. Even if you disagree with her on several points, if you're at Turning Point, right? Even if you feel somewhat attacked, if you're Mike and Rob McCoy, right? Rightfully, because you should be attacked. But even if that's the case, wouldn't you find this weird? And wouldn't you be thankful that Candace is doing these things? Right? Unless you are so self-protecting of your organization, the people around you, for something that they did wrong, which is what it appears to be. If you can't even give an inch, she tells the truth. She finds out all these things. She is the central area for all of the tips, not the FBI and Kash Patel's fake band of clowns over the FBI doing nothing. Again, not to say that there's nobody good at the FBI, but just the show he's running over there is ridiculous. Wouldn't you be happy somebody is doing this work? Like, she is obviously working tirelessly to get to the truth, which is all that Charlie wanted. And you can't even, like, yeah, Candace, super weird. Why is this Egyptian military plane following Erica Kirk for years and then so happens to be there on the day that he dies? Yeah, maybe they should be interested in that. Maybe they should be thankful to her. But instead, they're going to go into hyper defensive mode. They're going to attack. They're going to gaslight you. And then they're going to pretend like it never happened. And then move on to the next topic. And all while trying to take in all these donations under Charlie's name. Like, it's gross and it's sick. And to her point, like, nothing? None of the things that she's referencing, you're thankful that she found? Then that in and of itself is suspicious. Super suspicious.
And when it comes to these Egyptian flights, the math on this is indisputable. There is less than a 0.000000001% probability, okay, under random distribution models that these Egyptian planes coincidentally landed around Erica at these times. Like I said, this plane was not just with her in America. It was also tracking her overseas as well. I flagged this because I was alarmed because I thought it was tracking Charlie. And I'm telling you that this plane, in addition to Charlie, and primarily actually was tracking Erica. Now, let's get to the day of the assassination.
Now, it makes it a little bit more interesting when people have questions about Erica. Right? Was Erica the target? Why would they be tracking Erica? Why would they be following her for years on end? Why were they there on that day? Is Turning Point familiar with it? It seems like Candace believes that they will, and there's no way that they wouldn't be. Like, again, I go back to like, what is the implication? I want to like almost mess with some AI stuff and be like, hey, what are the potential options here? Why would this be the case? What are the most likely of those options? Right? Like, steel man the position for me. Why would there be an Egyptian military aircraft following the wife of Charlie Kirk in a way that's not potentially pointing to insidious means by Erica or by the aircraft itself? But Charlie never mentions it. He doesn't know it. They're kind of hiding it from him. And it's just weird, man. It's just weird. So that was one of the things that came up. Now, another one of the things that came up was the tax filings. And so essentially what was found by a user on X is that there was some really weird financial things happening at Turning Point this year. And that goes back to what Candace is saying and kind of alluded to before. That's may or may not be a part of this bigger puzzle, but for sure leads to corruption at Turning Point, which is the fact that Turning Point was late in filing its taxes, filed for an extension, and then missed the tax filing date. Not only that, but they filed their 990 forms. I don't know, I'm no finance guy. And from that, didn't list their 3 separate entities, which is super weird. Not only that, but the employee count at Turning Point went way down, but the payout for salaries went a fair amount up, which led the belief to there being ghost employees. Now, if you don't know anything about ghost employees, what people like, a ghost employee is essentially the idea that you put somebody on payroll who never shows up to work. And it's a way that you can kind of like pay somebody off or like kind of implant government embedded people into organizations, or like there's all this weird shady stuff that's happening from the financial perspective. And that goes back to why was Charlie implementing a internal Doge where he believed he was concerned not only with where the money was going, but where the money was coming from. And so he seemed to have a lot of questions about the finances at Turning Point. A lot of questions. Now, again, there was a good post by somebody, Harrison, somebody on X, who talked about the likelihood that the finances are tied to the assassination just doesn't make sense, because if you're trying to cover up the finances, you're not going to do it by assassinating the leader. And if that's the case, you're going to draw more attention to it. And the point of the shooting was to make it public and to actually like send a message. It wasn't to like, you know, you could poison them and it'd be way less crazy, right? It drew a lot of attention to it. It was a message, right? Which makes the Israel thing way more likely than the internal whatever. Now, where she gets into some more conversations is the Cavalry Church, which is a like offshoot of the hippies, and what happened, like the kind of like growth from MK Ultra. Like, again, all these things coming together at one time is just the wildest, craziest conspiracy situation in real time. Again, like we live in such an interesting reality. It's crazy. And so there's more to come. She's come up with some really crazy stuff. She even listed the license plates of the cars that the Egyptian military rented. And now what she can do is she can go and actually do a Freedom of Information Act request to the flock cameras in the area with those license plates and see if they were around the campus at the time. And that's what's coming next with Candace Owens. Shit's about to go down. And it gets crazier and crazier every day. More tips, more interesting information, more ties, more weirdness happening at Turning Point. So I guess we'll see. Time will tell. hopefully I can find some time to put that stuff together because I think it'd be really interesting just for my own sake. And I would love to pass it on to you guys. So that's what I got. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you have any thoughts, anything, DM me on Instagram. I always love to hear from you guys. If you guys are glad I'm back, love to hear that stuff too. Share the podcast. I mean, literally, it's the only way that this thing grows. And yeah, I would appreciate it. Leave a 5-star review. If you haven't left one already, I see you. This is for you. I'm talking. Hey, I'm talking. Everybody else go. You can leave. You can pause. You can go on to the next episode. You can listen to something else. But you, right now, the one who has not left a 5-star review, I'm talking to you and you only. You're the only. There's one person listening to this right now. You're the only one. Everybody else left a review. It's just me and you. They're gone. So let's talk. Hey, buddy. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you, man. But if you could, I would appreciate you leaving me a 5-star review. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but I would appreciate it. You're the only one here. You're the only one left. It's just me and you in this room right now. And all I ask is for you to leave a 5-star review. So right when this ends, right as I go up to sleep at midnight to have given you this wonderful conversation, all I ask for you is that you leave me a 5-star review, write something nice. And yeah, it's been nice talking with you. I'll see you next time right here on the Adams Archive. Thank you.
Adams Archive.